The stars are aligning for President Trump to avoid what could have been a year of federal court reckoning. Faces several cases now, including an indictment charging the president with hoarding classified documents. That case was dismissed on grounds that the special counsel who brought it was unlawfully put in the job. And then a separate criminal case accusing Trump of conspiring to overturn the outcome of the 2020 election. But the Supreme Court erased that possibility with an opinion that granted former presidents expansive immunity from prosecution. Now, this year will end without any chance of a trial for Trump.
So we're joined once again by our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes. So we were dealing with multiple cases before the presidential election. Now that all of these rulings have come out from the Supreme Court and cases dismissed, is this completely the end of all these cases?
On the federal side, it's completely the end for at least for the next 4 years. I mean, at some point, there's cases could potentially come back, and you still have the pending case in Georgia. And so there is an opportunity for something to occur. What something looks like, we're not sure. But right now, there is a lot of moving parts. And on the federal side, there will be absolutely nothing happening. Even if the cases that were against him had never got to court, there was already precedent there that a sitting president can't be prosecuted. And so because that was there would be nothing happening for the next 4 years.
I understand when a new administration comes in that they want their own people here. But when you're firing these lawyers who worked on these cases, not special prosecutors, just people who were assigned to these cases, which he has done. I mean, it's like he's back on The Apprentice. You're fired, you're fired, you're fired. But did they do anything wrong other than their job? Well,
Julian, I love that. Right now, up is down and down is up. This is completely backwards, and there's nothing that happened in this situation is how it's supposed to happen. I'll read what the acting attorney general said. Today, we're terminating the employment of a number of Department of Justice officials that played a significant role in prosecuting President Trump. In light of their actions, I guess he's talking about doing their job, the acting attorney general does not trust these officials to assist in faithfully implementing the president's agenda. Well, a couple of things are wrong with that process. First of all, the president's agenda has nothing to do with Department of Justice employees. Their job is to prosecute. He's the executive. They're two different branches. And so none of that portion makes sense. And then the trust portion, there's not a trust factor. These folks are employees. So let's look at the employment portion. They're federal employees, federally protected. There's a civil service rights. They have due process rights. There's actually an entire hearing that has to take place. They need warning. They need notices. There's no way you can just fire federal employees. I mean, they're actually the hardest people to fire on the planet. And so if you blatantly say that I can just go fire these folks, you don't understand that this isn't the public sector. This isn't the private world. These are federally backed employees that have an entire process that's already supported by precedent. So now what you've done by firing these people is now you open up the federal government to 12 potential lawsuits that I know are waiting to be filed today.
So how widespread can Trump's vindication go before there's pushback? Maybe legally saying, whoa, like you just said, you can't do that.
I think right now, whatever cost by firing these folks that the government will now have to fund and have to bear the burden of, I think the president is at the point where he is on a vindication and he is looking for some type of petty response. And that's what this is, because these folks were doing their job. To see that you were going to pardon 1,500 folks that were convicted criminals, but fire and terminate people that were doing their job. Again, it's up is down and down is up. This doesn't make sense, specifically where these folks are extremely protected.
Well, so what do you foresee happening here? Are we talking about lawsuits of any kind?
Unlimited. Unlimited lawsuits. And the dollar amount is going to continue to climb. These are folks that are career prosecutors. So these are folks that went to law school with the expectation of doing nothing but prosecuting folks. So people with 20, 30 plus years of working in these types of offices. So they're not making pennies, they're making significant dollars. And if you've terminated them and now you've caused some harm to their future likelihood and their potential earning, yes, the checks are going to be unlimited. And it doesn't make sense because whoever's advising the president should have informed him of something that you can easily Google, that there is a due process, that there's a civil rights process. It's called a progressive discipline hearing. This is easy to find. So for you to just say, I can fire these folks, I'd like to know how. Like, how did we get to today I decided to fire you?
And what is interesting, too, is that as you're watching the confirmation hearings go on for Pam Bondi even said, we're not going to take direction from the president. Okay, the legal system in this country should act independently of the president and only prosecute things that are legal matters. How does this work for Trump's own people saying, no, we're not going to take direction, but again, they're taking direction from him and following his order.
I 100% agree when she said that. I kind of stood up and clapped. I was happy that someone was finally saying something that made sense. But you saw this with Barr. You saw this with the last two attorney generals. They tried to stand against him, and at some point you'll recognize that what I'm saying to him is either not sinking in, and then they'll either resign or they'll continue to do it. In her situation, I think she wholeheartedly meant that I have no intention of being political, is what she said. I'm not going to politicize this. I have a job to do. But if the president is telling you to do something, either you're going to stand on his way or you're going to get knocked over. And I think at this moment, she's trying to find a way to stay out of his way. That's why this wasn't done by her, because she hasn't been confirmed yet, and it was done by the acting attorney general. I'd like to see what she does in that role. But all you've done is open up the people, because the taxpayers will pay for these lawsuits time and time again.
Okay.
We'll see by the end of the week how many bowling pins are still standing, right?
There we go.
My gosh. Khalif, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Coming